Morning, everyone. My name is Nankali, and my portfolio is normally just around child marriage. But the Associate Director for Child Protection is away, and so I'm representing him this morning. But I'm also represented by a team that you can't see around, but are there to support, especially when it comes to the questions and answers that I won't be able to respond on. All right. So just in terms of the 2016 context, when it comes to child protection, in general, the exposure to violence, exploitation, abuse, and neglect remained a stark reality for millions of children last year. Just to share some statistics on that, recent evidence showed that 31 million children live outside their country of birth, of which 28 million children had been forcibly displaced, and 1 in 200 across the world are in refugee status. In addition, as the crisis becomes, in terms of complex and protracted crises, as the crisis become part of a new normal to many nations, they threaten to overwhelm existing capabilities and systems. And so within that, we also saw nearly 250 million children living in areas affected by conflict. When it came to violence against children, over 1 billion children experienced emotional, physical, and sexual violence. So these were the situations that children were being affected over last year. But in addition to issues to do with violence and also to do with conflict, there were issues to do with urbanization, with over 54% of the world's population living in urban areas. The proportion expected to increase to 66% by 2015. The urban pool puts pressure on existing social safety nets and exposes children in particular to increasing vulnerabilities and also risks. There were also issues around technology advances. Globally, 1/3 of all internet users are children. Even in children where internet use is relatively low, usage amongst young people is sometimes as much as double the national average. So that presented for us both an opportunity but also a challenge just in terms of the risks that children were being exposed to. So that's just the general situation in terms of child protection last year. Sorry. Just going on, the good news for us in terms of protection is that while the situation was quite dire in terms of children and issues to do with violence, abuse, and exploitation, in terms of the response and how people have come together was very positive. So if you look at the development context, there's now greater universality and cohesion to achieve results for children. So we've posted up a number of development goals that you can see in place, which shows broad commitment by a broad range of partners to be able to respond to violence, abuse, and exploitation of children. What was even more positive for us is also the SDG targets, which anchor child protection work, and the indicators which will assist in tracking and strengthening accountability around these outcome areas. Generally, UNICEF was pleased to play a leadership role in translating the SDG commitments into tangible results for children. Of note, of course, the normative development and the fact that UNICEF has been identified as a custodian agency for all child protection indicators for the SDG. In terms of the structure to respond, or the results framework to respond to child protection, I think you've all already been exposed to this before, but just to remind ourselves, we had a general outcome around improving equitable prevention and response to violence, abuse, and exploitation and neglect of children. We had 2 impact indicators around child marriage and birth registration, and outcome indicators focused around violence, detention, FGMC, child labor, residential care, child marriage, and grave violations. Feeding into that, of course, the 4 output areas, one around enhanced support and increased capacity of children and families to protect themselves and eliminate practices or behaviors harmful to children. The second around increasing national capacity to provide access to child protection systems. The third around the political commitment, accountability, and national capacity to legislate, plan, and budget. And then the fourth around increasing country capacity and delivery of services to ensure that child rights to protection from violence, abuse, and exploitation are sustained. And then below that are quite a number of program areas focusing on data and child protection systems, violence, abuse, and exploitation, justice, birth registration, and kind of strengthening families and communities. So that's the results framework that we had to be able to respond to the issues that I laid out. In terms of the impact and outcome, I've already referred to the impact indicators being focused on child marriage and birth registration. We had, the key impact areas, impact and output areas, which I've already shared with you. And just to share with you a number of results that we had, which we're actually quite proud about. Around violence, there was a launch of Inspire in July 2016, which contributes to advancing VAC management response. This is in reference to the VAC evaluation. It's being spearheaded by WHO and involves 9 other key agencies, including UNICEF. This initiative aims to develop a set of evidence-based strategies to address violence and enhance sector response. For sexual violence, the We Protect Global Alliance is a partnership of 70 countries looking at issues of global technology. I mentioned in the first slide around issues to do with technology. So this alliance is focusing on global technology industry and international organizations working together to end online child sexual exploitation. One of the key highlight results that we're quite pleased about, and this is 13 million people have been reached through awareness raising campaigns. 60,000 children, parents, and teachers, and more than 1,000 law enforcement and judicial officers have also been reached around issues to do with sexual violence. When it comes to children in detention, we've noted an increase by 27% since 2014, from 26 countries to 36 countries in 2016, which is quite good progress for us as well. On FGMC, more than 2,931 communities around 16 countries declared abandonment of female genital mutilation. For child labor, we noticed significant progress has been made in reaching children at risk or withdrawing them from child labor through UNICEF-supported programs. When it comes to residential care, almost 1.9 children were registered in alternative care across UNICEF program countries. And finally, for child marriage, which Andrew also referred to within her presentation, while a number of countries are working on child marriage, we have a specific program that's focused around 12 countries, and within that, a joint program, with UNFPA, more than 1 million girls have been reached with life skills and school attendance support. Finally, when it comes to children in armed conflict, state parties in 2015 were at 75%, and by 2016 we're at 88%. So the 7 state countries partly listed for recruitment and use of children have now signed action plans, though Yemen's action plan is not operational at this point. We also want to point out that non-state parties have risen from 6% in 2015 to 8% in 2015, which is perhaps the biggest result in signing the action plan with the Sudan People's Liberation Movement Army. So in terms of our 2016 output results, I've mentioned quite a few already over there. The key message flowing through our work is the increased focus UNICEF is placing on achieving results through ramping up action, through building capacity of systems to deliver results, through integrated programming and action, through improved efficiency, including fiscal efficiency, and through strengthening accountabilities. Excuse me. We wanted to particularly highlight the work around the sexual exploitation and abuse. Following allegations of sexual abuse and exploitation of children by UN personnel, including peacekeeping troops and troops associated with UN mandate, UNICEF provided assistance to victims of sexual exploitation and abuse in 8 countries in 2016. For instance, in Central African Republic, UNICEF supported 233 victims of sexual exploitation and abuse, of which 64% were girls, with a package of assistance including provision of a range of psychosocial support, medical and economic support services. Within the context of child protection, I think similar to the first 2 presentations that have been done, we have a broad range of partnerships that we work with around the different themes and outputs within child protection. And we're proud that UNICEF acts as a lead and coordinator in achieving most of these partnerships, in leading most of these partnerships. The benefits of the partnerships for us are improved cohesiveness of programming that amplify our results, ramping up collective development of global standards and public goods. We're able to speak in one voice through these partnerships. Strong economies of scale through improving efficiencies by scaling up and joint forces to produce results. Strengthening cohesion and coordination to avoid duplication of action. So a broad range of partnerships. I think last week or the week before there was an informal meeting with the board, and questions came up about, yes, it's good that we have partnerships, but what do we have the partnerships for? So I just wanted to share those points for people to understand why we have the partnerships and what we hope to achieve through such a broad range of partnerships within child protection. Sorry, so I've just been given a warning, so I'm going to kind of quickly rush through to the end. But really, I think I should get leeway for all the technical challenges that I faced. No, but I'm going to rush through. So we've had a number of challenges, lessons learned, and we've learned and adapted as we go forward. And these are probably similar to most of the people who present here, including things around strengthening programming at scale. We're also having issues around underutilizing our administrative data, limited investment in workforces, the need for increasing national fiscal space around child protection, and then rationalizing decisions versus the funding flows. I wanted to, if I can have just a second to particularly focus on this slide, is just to talk about the financial resources. I think seeing from Andrew's and also Alex's presentation, in terms of resources, we face what we think is a significant dip. If you look from 2014, 2015, we had the lowest funds allocation we've ever had since 2007. And while in 2016 the resources have come up, they still remain fairly low compared to all the way back to 2007. So just to highlight, just in terms of our resource situation. We had a slide there just to look at where we've made results on global thematic, but it's probably too small and we don't have much time to be able to share that. So just in terms of going forward, this is the results framework that we want to have within the new strategic plan, which we are able to share to you. Maybe just to highlight to you that broadly, we're going to focus on protecting children from violence and exploitation. And within that, there'll be 3 results areas, 1 on violence, 1 on harmful practices, and the final one on access to justice. That's it. Thank you very much.